Enter the Void, starring Paz de la Huerta and Nathaniel Brown, is a gaudy yet melancholic surrealist picture by French director Gaspar Noé. Set in Tokyo and analogous to Eraserhead for the drug and Eastern mysticism subcultures, Enter the Void almost dares you to feel numb toward the hyperactive neon visuals, general misery, and pronounced nihilism on screen. Well, dare complete. Where's my $5, no? Enter the Void follows Oscar, a young drug dealer who is shot in a drug bust. After his death, Oscar's disembodied spirit wanders through the city and watches over the various people involved in his life, including his sister, best friend, supplier, and accomplice. For a bit of context, my opinion on Eraserhead is as follows. I don't especially like it, but it's still a good film, mainly for the cohesive world Lynch boldly crafts using surrealist elements. Same goes for Harmony Korine's Spring Breakers. It's a compelling, dazzling satire of holiday vapidness and excess running rampant, but, as you probably already know, I strongly dislike the film for its reprehensible characters, lecherous camera, and the subject matter, which I can't personally relate to. Unfortunately, in the case of Enter the Void, I dislike it and I don't think it's very good. Incidentally, Enter the Void and Spring Breakers both have the same cinematographer, Benwheat Debbie. The cinematography is by far Enter the Void's strongest element. Tokyo was a very shrewd choice of setting. Even in the slums, the streets are teeming with disorienting color and swaths of dizzying information. Artistic embellishments are therefore hardly even necessary to produce a psychedelic atmosphere. But Enter the Void does still excel in its visual effects, which are staggeringly beautiful and evocative, whether they depict Oscar's drug-induced trips or his chaotic journey after death. Oscar's DMT hallucinations feel both organic and alien, full of tendrils, fractals, and a heavy living rhythm, and are suffused with dark colors that imply sickness, rather than bright healthy colors. This vaguely Jupiter and Beyond the Infinite style trip sequence sets the film's tone. Oscar's mind is racing, but he's dying all the while. The first 25 minutes of the film are a fine example of cinematic technique and succinct storytelling establishment. In essentially one long, uninterrupted point-of-view shot, we witness Oscar talking with his sister Linda, smoking DMT, tripping ornately, getting a call for a delivery from his friend Victor, which sets up the primary turning point in the film, that being the drug bust, learning about Tibetan ideas of spirits wandering before reincarnation, thus setting up the narrative framing device, and ultimately dying, with us watching Oscar die from his own eyes and his own stressed but fading perspective. The film's intro is skillfully coordinated, has organic dialogue, contains the aforementioned stunning imagery, and is very hectic and nerve-wracking at its culmination. The intro is also quite tense. With Oscar's serious drug consumption, you expect him to crash at any moment, so it's far more shocking when he finally dies of a gunshot instead. Enter the Void starts strong, but then it loses me. The film switches from POV to a behind-the-head perspective as a sequence of flashbacks begins, which depict Oscar's childhood with Linda, his devotion to her, and the under-the-surface incestuous attraction, the car crash that orphaned them, Oscar's entry into the drug trade, Linda finally coming to live with him, and her finding work as a stripper. These flashbacks provide broader context for Oscar's death, and the siblings' blood pact to never leave each other implicitly explains Oscar lingering after death to watch over her. The flashbacks continue to impress in the visual department and contain some raw, emotionally concussive moments. But, as stated before, I steadily grew numb to it all. I don't care about this deadpan, bland drug dealer or the uninteresting characters around him, and the film gives you little reason to. Oscar's commitment to Linda is too general an anchor for us to invest ourselves in him, and he's visibly and recklessly throwing his life away with drugs, their consumption and sale, without much of a life or character to throw away. We learn plenty of events and details about Oscar, but little personality to help us connect with him, and what we do learn about him only pushes us away from him. Enter the Void is highly effective, pun intended, at depicting the gutter of suburban society and how drugs damage lives, but Little Fish, which immediately came to mind as another drug-centric drama, has far better developed characters and a more engaging plot. Granted, Little Fish is grounded in reality, while Enter the Void is a more fanciful picture, but I believe the point still stands. I found these long flashbacks, and the final act, in which we return to Oscar's perspective as he continues to observe the aftermath of his death, to be dreary, grim, and uninvolving. And I'm not saying that depressing, depraved, or shocking can't be compelling or even invigorating. Not at all. Look at Ingmar Bergman's The Seventh Seal and The Shame, Thomas Vinterberg's The Hunt, Roman Polanski's Chinatown, much of the Coen brothers' filmography, David Lynch's Lost Highway, Alex de la Iglesia's brilliant mindfuck The Last Circus, The Raid Redemption, or the Richard III adaptation starring Sir Ian McKellen, or, begrudgingly, A Clockwork Orange. These are all films with moods of intensely negative emotion, but this does not preclude entertainment. They have engrossing narratives, intriguing characters, and deep yet tangible themes, all of which elevate the darkness and turn it into a satisfying emotional high, rather than a hard slog. Enter the Void, on the other hand, is the hard slog. In the final act, Oscar, enacting the principles of the Tibetan Book of the Dead, seeks to be reincarnated, and watches over his friends and family in life before apparently being spiritually reborn in his sister's womb, with his father being his friend Alex, Cyril Roy. I'm aware of this narrative process, but it's still too slow and gloomily unengaging, and you get very little sense of agency from the film's perspective. Also, ending the film on a cum shot, even counting the symbolism of rebirth, is just tasteless.
You don't know what you're doing here.
Enter the Void is quite a poor surrealist picture, in my opinion. It dazzles initially with striking imagery and a solid opening, but the flimsy characters, sluggish pacing, and the pervasive, gritty despair all make this intensely unenjoyable and hard to engage with. Enter the Void earns 2 stars out of 5. Thanks for watching. Cheers.